Hello everyone, so this is going to be a recorded AAR of the earlier match that I uploaded today, which is a Silent Vigil One Life Squad Operation match. And I have the setup right here in front of us. So we're going to be looking at the setup. So US starts at the bottom right. Ionis has two caches that spawn, one at the southwest and one right here in the center of town at the south. Our extract point as US is this area right here, this compound. And our objective as US is to sweep through the valley and destroy either the cache that they've chosen or the enemy commander. So normally you don't see these caches until a little bit into the op. So what you have to do is you have to sweep the valley. Insurgent forces can only be west of this marker we have. That's just a setup rule that we have. So US is starting at the southeast here, and they have to essentially clear everything west of this red line, looking for either the insurgent commander or the cache that they've chosen to protect. So right off the bat, the first thing I want to do from my static position right here on start is I want to get a platoon line set up. So what I have is I have three infantry squads and one mechanized squad that has a striker. That's our assets. So we have three infantry squads and one mechanized squad. The enemy has pure infantry, and there's random vehicles, random technicals scattered around the map that they can use against us if they get them. But they spawn at, once again, like I said, one of these two caches. So since we're sweeping east to west in this direction through the valley, I want to ensure that I have a force set to properly sweep through the valley, because technically we don't know that these caches are the locations until they spawn on the map. But anyways, what I want to do first, of course, is get my platoon line set up. So I have an infantry squad here at the south staging point, an infantry squad here, an infantry squad here, and then on my mechanized squad is going to be up here in the north using this MSR with their striker. That's the staging points, right? Before we even get to the contact line and the engagement line, I want to have my platoon line set up, right, as we push right to left. So the secondary points off of this marker are pretty much, after everyone's online, is pretty much these markers along the engagement line. From there, we're anticipating contact, but the staging points are as shown. So we start pushing to our staging points, and as we start pushing to our staging points, everyone gets set and we push to our secondary points. In that transition, these two infantry squads down here on the south start taking contact, and my striker is able to actually push up uncontested on the north. So my infantry on the south start taking contact from infantry on this huge hill up here, as well as in the compound where our extract is, as well as right here on the ridge line. So immediately from seeing this contact, my brain tells me they've chosen this cache over here on the south, right? Simply because there's no way they'd have infantry this close this soon if they'd chosen the far left cache. So we can just completely delete that. So this is where first contact happens and where the units on both sides are. So essentially it's three infantry squads engaging roughly three infantry squads on the south. My striker, my mechanized infantry in the north is not doing anything. And I'm actually up here in the north as well. I'll denote myself with this mark. I'm up here with the striker as command. So seeing this situation develop, I know immediately, okay, cache is in the south. We need to attack this point. This is where we need to go to complete our objective. So the first thing that I do is I start moving myself. I reposition down to the south near this hill so I can get better eyes on and a better understanding of the situation at hand. So the line's drawn. I move myself down there. We're trading fire with the enemy. Nothing too close range. We're just trading shots at maybe about 200 meters, so they aren't, dangerously close or anything like that. And at this point, by assessing the information, what I've noticed, the first things I noticed is that there's a huge hill. This hill in the south is a power hill because it is the highest elevation in the entire area right here. And if they control that hill, they can send fire throughout my entire maneuver, right? If I send troops over here on the north in or whichever way, that hill's going to have eyes on them. So my first maneuver when I move south is I want to take that south hill. So when I look at that south hill, I think about how I want to take this, right? I don't just want to send my infantry squads pushing in there completely unsupported because, an assault on high ground without, any kind of force multiplier doesn't usually end well. So the next thing I do is I want to pull my striker from the north, my mechanized squad. I'm going to pull them and have them redeploy to the south and use that striker as a force multiplier. I also have my mechanized infantry dismount at this point. So now I have the entire platoon on the south. The insurgents haven't really moved too much. If anything, the only thing that's moved is they've started probing our northern flank a little bit more. And because I pulled my striker from the north, the next thing that I do is I have to assess my northern flank, right? Because before, when the striker was up north, it was deterring any flank from the north. But at this point now, with this kind of platoon setup, the enemy could very easily come in from the north and hit us from there because our striker is no longer screening our north. So I immediately have Silent Death Squad, which is this squad right here. I immediately have him. Let me see if I can color these. I don't think I can. No. I immediately have Silent Death Squad up here. I tell him, you know what? You're our north flank screen. So his responsibility is everything near this line. He's going to cut off everything this way. Okay. So let me actually draw this better. So he's locking down our northern flank. He's screening, right? And multiple times we saw insurgents trying to push in. Actually, maybe I can. Oh, wow, I can change the colors here. So we'll make Silent Death Squad teal, I guess. So Silent Death is up there. My mechanized infantry, I'll color them yellow, I guess. So we have the striker and mechanized infantry. And then we have creeping. That's creeping squad. And then we have OD tap squad, which I'll put as green. And same blue. This is the same blue. We do white. Yeah. So that's our setup. So that should help kind of illustrate what's going on. So anyways, I now have our northern flank screened. You know, insurgents are constantly trying to probe this from this direction, and I send my command fire team up to assist him, so he has some more reinforcements on the north. And I guess we can denote that with I don't think we need to denote that with anything. But anyways, we now have reestablished our northern flank, right? So now I can just solely focus on this south hill right here and just focus on eliminating that from the picture and taking that under our control. Because if I can get my squads up there, my U.S. infantry squads up there, I will in turn control almost everything on the south because I will have vision and superior positioning, right? So how do I want to go about doing this? Well, the infantry in this location has taken up defense in the compound. There's enemy up on the hill, and we have harassment on our north flank. I want to do two things. I cannot send this south squad to assault this side safely until these compounds on the south are somewhat clear. So I have both these squads do two things. I have my white squad, become my assault squad. So Pony then takes the assault in from this vector. He also attempts to clear some of the buildings on the south with his squad. I have one element moving. I want to have the other two suppressing. So I then push the striker as well as the mechanized infantry up to cover and create a support by fire position with OD taps infantry. So we have a pretty strong base of fire now. We have a striker and two infantry. We have the mechanized infantry squad with the striker and the infantry squad laying down fire on both the compounds and the hill as the white squad pushes up in assaults. And so Pony actually makes a lot of progress over here in the south and is able to get in position to assault the hill. At this point in time, I have OD Tap attempt to push in a little bit closer and get better positioning. And he positions a little bit closer, not too close, but he gets in a better position. But Creeping Squad remains as the base of fire. So I now have two maneuvering squads kind of pincering in on enemy positions while my support by fire with the striker is hammering everything with the optics and with his riflemen. They stop probing our north, at which point in time I tell Silent, okay, you're going to still watch the north, but I want you to pull in closer. So Silent actually pushes in closer, and he actually is able to now screen for the north, right, from here, as well as provide support by fire into the compounds below. At which point, when Silent gets into that position, I send the green squad in to start clearing the actual the actual compounds, and green squad successfully does it, but takes a lot of casualties. So they clear out the enemy contact in these compounds, and they're able to resecure um, our LZ. At this point in time, Pony's just struggling against the northern guys. He's engaging the hill guys, and he's engaging, and he's eventually able to slowly push them off the hill, especially with the support of the striker. I had the striker constantly maneuvering from these two current positions, and these two current positions gave them a ton of flexibility and firing angles on the hill, allowing the white squad to push up and take out the remaining insurgent forces on the hill. So at this point, our assault is looking good. We have we've made a lot of ground. We've eliminated the first two enemy strong points, and now we pretty much only have two main threats at this point in time, right? The two main threats being the actual cache location itself, as well as a reinforced attack from the north. Insurgents had rebolstered their efforts and began probing our north with technicals as well as infantries. So I then had my blue squad turn direct north, and I had them solely focused on our northern flank. Yeah. At this point in time, seeing that they had taken up positions in the north, and seeing how my white squad had taken the south hill, I then decided to push my mechanized squad up to the hill, at which point in time they would reinforce the white squad as well as manipulate that hill to engage with that superior elevation on enemy contact on our north, and that eventually pushed them off. Right. So eventually, with this new positioning, with everyone in these current positions right here, we were able to push off the north. We have the south secured, and now we have pretty good security. We've inflicted a lot of enemy casualties, and we're ready to push on to the final compound. You can see how I really put a lot of focus on the southern hill with the striker and the two squads, as well as splitting my force and ensuring that my whole entire platoon wasn't on the south. But I also had two squads north across the valley in case we got pinned on the south. They would be able to relieve. It's very important to have two separate elements, because if we had all four squads down here and we got pinned, there's no way for us to pivot, because we have nothing to pivot around. We're all stuck together, and we'd have to just brute force our way out. Whereas because I've split the squad into two elements, if either one gets engaged, they can kind of cover each other, and we can kind of maneuver out of it with the other squad or section providing support by fire. But anyways, moving on to the final assault, right? Because this was a pretty straightforward assault. I then positioned the two northern squads. At this point, we pretty much dissolve into two elements. A covering element and a maneuvering element on both sides. So I'll depict that as the covering elements will remain LMGs, and then the maneuvering elements will move to or the assault elements will move to swords. So I then had two basic fires set up, one up on the north and one on the south hill, and then I had two assaulting squads, one from the north hill and one from the south hill, and then we just pincered the cache from two sides. Eliminated the objective, eliminated the enemy commander, and that was the rest of the game. So, I mean, this was a very basic platoon assault. A couple things I'd just like to note are it's important that you keep, a maneuvering element and a covering element. Don't move the entire platoon or element at the same time. You need to have someone putting down fire and putting pressure on the enemy as you push up, just to minimize the amount of casualties that assault force will take. Keep your force split up to some degree. You need to have something to pivot around. You need to have two different positions so you can have that flexibility, because if you just death ball it up all in one, you get really limited in your options when you come under fire. In this video, you can see how we really worked two different firing arcs right across the valley, and we caught them in a crossfire multiple times. Make sure your flanks are screened, right? We had that one squad in the north, ensuring that this north flank was screened, especially after we pulled the striker all the way back and around. We left our north flank exposed. You have to account for that, right? Because if I hadn't done that, that INS force that came in from the north, it really could have caused some damage by getting behind my guys. But I made sure that I watched my north. I had one squad continuously screening that north, preventing that from happening, while I continued to have those covering and bounding teams move up and take ground from the enemy. I used the striker to destabilize enemy defensive positions and weaken them for the assault force. You need some kind of force multiplier on the assault, whether that be more manpower, better weapon systems, better positioning, something when you're attacking to give you an edge, because defenders have a natural advantage. And then on the final push in, you can see how all those things remained. I kept having two separate elements. I had a covering element and a maneuvering element, and I used 2 different firing arcs to gain better positioning on the enemy defense. And that was a pretty cut and clean op. It was really good. It got a little close a couple times, but I thought it was a really clean op and a really cool demonstration of a pretty basic platoon attack. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of this AAR. I've got a couple other tactics videos coming up, but I like making these. These are fun. So yeah, let me know what you think, and see you in the next